Alright, so welcome to another Saturday, February 20th Q&A session. So my name is Yoon Kim. So if you're new to my channel, this is a video where every Saturday I answer your questions from every Monday's video, which is Ask Yoon video. And so if you have any questions, so save it till Monday because it's easier for me to see all the questions on one single video, because each day I get right about 25 to 30 questions slash comments. So in a week I get right about 200 comments slash questions. So I do go through every single one of them. You will see a little like button from me, but being there's so many, there will be some that I miss. So if I do miss some that I don't answer your questions, so repost it several times in a different video, that will get my attention. Okay, so to begin, today's first question comes from John Peters, and he asks, will the Navy provide money for bills while you are on boot camp and A school and all that kind of stuff? So the answer is no. The Navy does not provide extra cash for you to cover your rent, cover your utilities, cover your grocery bills. The only type of payment or money you get from the Navy is the money that you receive when you of your rate. So if you're E1, you get E1's pay. If you're E3, you get E3 pay. But when you're in boot camp, it's a little bit deducted because it's not considered the true Navy yet. It's just in boot camp. At the same time, there's a lot of, you pay for your uniform and you pay for all the toothbrush and all that kind of stuff, even a haircut. Even if you got a haircut already before coming into boot camp, you still get charged for a haircut. So a lot of little miscellaneous stuff here and there adds up and takes a chunk out of your pay initially. Okay, so next question comes from Future Sailor Davis, and he asks, do Seabees get deployed, and where can they get stationed at? So I'm not too sure on how Seabees operate, but I do know two things about them. Number one is their promotion rate is extremely difficult to get promoted within the CB world. At the same time, number two, if I can guess correctly, on how they would operate, is they will be training and they will be stationed in a field, in an area, in an environment that's close to how they would be operating in a real deployment setting. So in environment wise, you're going to be stationed, I would say, in a place where they can recreate as much as possible of an environment that you will experience, you will be in a deployment setting. So, and how they get deployed is, they would come aboard the ship, and the ship would go, whether if it's a carrier or whether it's an LHD or whatever, they would go, and then they would drop you off, and then they would just go away, and then Seabees would do their own thing, right? So next question comes from Future Sailor Lind, and Future Sailor Lind asks, what's close rate wise to an EMT slash paramedic? So the best and the closest one would be corpsmen. Corpsmen, they know a lot of the basics of the human body and how to do the needle, do the shots and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like complicated things. So like if you lose your arm, how do they get trained to put it back together? No, that's for much more advanced civilians and like officers. They would have a better understanding than the enlisted corpsmen. So you just get treated as to like basic stuff. Okay, so I don't think it's to the degree of the armies, soldiers, the medics, because my brother is actually Army National Guard Reserves, and he's a medic. So he would be trained if in a combat zone, combat environment, if someone gets shot, how to treat someone if they get shot. I'm sure that the corpsmen do to some degree, but I don't think it's as severe as how they get trained as a soldier, as how the army they do, because in army, you actually have to carry like bodies, and you are actually in the field with the soldiers, doing the thing. But the Navy corpsmen, it's not going to be to that degree. So I don't think you're going to be in a war zone per se. Okay. So second thing is, what kind of bases can you get stationed at? So if it's an overseas or anything like that. So for the most part, bases overseas, from what I think, from what I can say, in my opinion, a lot of it's going to be run by, like, for example, hospitals. So if you want to be a corpsman, right? A lot of it's going to be run by civilians. But I'm sure there are some corpsmen that are going to be stationed in hospital. Like I said, I don't really know too much. It's just from my guess. So I would say there's going to be few corpsmen here and there, but not in a ratio that's going to be smaller than how many civilians there are already going to be. All right. So next question comes from Future Sailor Alvarez, and Future Sailor Alvarez asks, do people with glasses have a disadvantage in terms of, what jobs can they get, or are they discriminated against a little bit? The answer is no. From what I can see so far, I would say there's a good third of the Navy, wearing glasses, and not a lot of the jobs. Unless you're officer, with a plane, you're operating a plane. I think you need a 20/20 vision for that. You can't wear glasses, but if that is not you, you need to be officer to operate a plane, number one. But any other field is open to everybody. All right. So next question comes from Future Sailor Belmonte, asking about height limits and can you work with glasses? So it's so weird. A lot of the videos, a lot of the asked questions have a certain topic that's frequently asked compared to a different video. In this video, it's a lot about heights and glasses for some reason. So that was pretty interesting. So are there height limits? No. I know my friend, he's 6'6", so that's the tallest guy that I know in the Navy. So if you're not 6'6", you're okay. And second thing, can you work with glasses? Yes. All right, so next question comes from Future Sailor Cabra. And Future Sailor Cabra asks, electronic policy in boot camp and A school. So the only type of electronic I think you could have is your watch. So you can't have your phone, iPad, or anything like that, any type of electronics. It's just your watch that's going to be as closest to electronic/home as possible. Not iPhone, Apple Watch. No, just a normal, like a G-Shock or Timex will do. Anything complicated, anything gaudy, like you can't bring a stainless steel watch, you can't bring a gold watch, nothing like that. When you're in A school, you can kind of do whatever you want as long as you lock up your stuff. All right. When I was in A school, there was a buddy of mine. He brought like his whole setup. He brought like a little computer screen, like a big one, not a small one. It looked like a TV screen. At the same time, he hooked it up to his laptop, and he has speakers and all that kind of stuff, difficult, crazy settings. And his buddy had like PS4, Xbox, and all that kind of stuff. And so you can bring whatever you want. Just make sure you're able to take it back to another location after you graduated A school. All right. So next question comes from Future Sailor Scroggins, and he asks, EM, electrician mates, are they a good field to be in to transition into civilian world? So EMs, electrician mates, they work with, fixing, repairing, testing electronics. So if you're interested in that field, so maybe an electrician, engineer, or electronics repair, like electrician, I would say, then that's a good field to be in. All right, so next question comes from LOL, why you mad? So that's the name of that person. So I don't think he completed his question when he was asking me. So he basically asked, can you leave your service if you don't like it? So let's say you have a 4-year contract. So it seems like, at least for the Navy, they're pushing everyone to have a 5-year contract now instead of 4 years. So I think within the next few years, you will see everyone having a 5-year minimum contract. And the question is, can you leave your service if you don't like it? So for the most part, the answer is no. You have to fulfill the obligated 5-year contract. However, you can apply for early release program. So if your rate is overmanned, if there's too many people within your rate, you can apply to get early release. So, it might help get you a year out faster or 2 years out faster. I know some people, said I have a medical disorder and they faked it all. And then, some people get in trouble at the same time. Some people, manage to get out. So there's many different ways you could technically get out, but I don't recommend it. I just recommend you either apply for early release or you just serve your time. All right, so next question comes from Future Sailor Stallworth. And Future Sailor Stallworth asks, during P-Days, do you sign a lot of paperwork? And the answer is yes. It's not going to be death by paperwork, but during P-Days, you're not fully fit for duty. You know, they still run your medical screening tests. So they do your medical and your dental, making sure that you are completely healthy for all the physical exercises that are to come when you actually start boot camp. Okay, so during P days, you know, you sign a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of waiting to do. There's, you know, you spend a lot of time reading your training guide, and so during P days, yes, there will be a lot of paperwork signing, a lot of waiting, a lot of very boring times. Okay, so next question comes from Future Sailor Ria. Future Sailor Ria asks, do you get to keep all your uniform once you leave service? And the answer is yes. So next question comes from John Peters again. So does the Navy cover rent when you are in boot camp? And the answer is no. The Navy does not give you extra money, extra fine, extra cash for anything. Okay? When you are in boot camp, when you're in A school, you know, you only get paid the amount of money you get for your rate. Okay? So if you're in E1, you get E1's pay. And then, you know, afterwards, you can apply for BAH and all different kind of stuff to get some extra money, but to live with your family off base. But other than that, you don't get any extra money. All right. So next question comes from Future Sailor Nguyen. So can you go to officer? You know, how easy is it to transition from when you join boot camp straight out of high school? You know, how fast can you become an officer? So there is the STA 21 program, which is Seaman to Admiral program. So it's what they have linked down in the description down below. And one of the things, so if you want more information, you can check that out. But one of the things that I could definitely recommend you to do before you graduate high school is take the SATs. So, you know, a lot of times people associate SATs with, you know, going into college. But SAT, you definitely need to take that. You definitely want to have a good score because one of the requirements for it is for when you become a enlisted to officer is to have taken an SAT and is to have a good score. All right, so when you are in high school, when you have a lot of time, make sure you take the SATs and get a good score, good high score. And also check out the website STA21 that I will link down in the description down below. All right, so next question comes from Future Sailor Souza. Asks about what happens in the DEP, Delayed Entry Program, DEP program. So the DEP program isn't anything special. It's basically they want, a lot of people ask, you know, hey, how long is it until, you know, after I sign up, can I leave for boot camp? Is it going to be 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? So delayed entry program, it's at least going to be 90 days before you when you sign up at MEPS until you leave for boot camp. They have a huge long period of time because they want you to take care of your finances. They want to give you enough time to organize things, organize your civilian life before you leave and join the military life. Okay, so what happens in the DEP program is basically, you know, you study the SART guide. You have a monthly meeting with your recruiting office with all the different future sailors, and you know, you meet up with them, and then, you know, they kind of give you a basic training on how to do different things, how to have a different position, or how to march and all that kind of stuff, push-up requirements. So it's nothing too advanced, but it's this basic thing that they will teach you in the DEP program. All right, so next question comes from Future Sailor Almonte, and asking me about am I going to buy a car? So no, one of the biggest things that I don't recommend people to do is buy a car. I'm not saying it's bad, but what I am saying is there's really not a lot of huge use out of it. So if you buy a $4,000 vehicle and you pay, you know, monthly on insurance, all that kind of stuff, I mean, it adds up. You know, you pay a lot of money, so you're not going to get a good amount of use for it when you're in the Navy, because you get deployed, you go to different places, and your vehicle just sits there. It depreciates in value. So let's say you you buy a $5,000 car and you go on a 9-month deployment, and you come back. Guess what? The vehicle is going to be in a terrible condition because it hasn't been working in 9 months. I mean, you could technically send it to your family, but if you send it to your family, that's out of your own money, okay? And if your family wants to send it back to you, that's out of their money, all right? So that's money and money, and So your vehicle sits there for 9 months, not really operating. That's going to be a problem with it once you finally start it 9 months later. At the same time, now it's 9 months depreciated in value. So it's not really worth having it. When you are in the Navy, there will be people with vehicles out there, and you can always smooch a ride from them. I mean, just pay them back, like buy them dinner, buy them food, or pay for gas here and there. So I don't recommend buying a car. So next question he asks is, am I going to have a different type of social media? And the answer is yes. I have been thinking about starting a Facebook page for a while, trying out different stuff, experimenting here and there. I have been talking about having that for like 3 months now. So I might finally roll out with it soon. Just do a little bit, experience different videos here and there. Maybe do a live talk. I don't know exactly what I want to do, but I might do Facebook page. All right. So next question comes from Dion B, and Dion B asks, "How long is A school?" It depends on what rate you choose. So a logistics specialist is 2 months. I know ETs, electrician technicians, I think it was, their school, A school, is 9 months. So it's very long. At the same time, afterwards they have C school. And so, there's different, depending on the rate, the duration of your A school varies, all right? And I know some A schools, like, what is it? SHs have like, I think it's like a month and a half or a month. I forgot. I think it was a month and a half. So it varies from rate to rate. Okay. Next thing, Dion B asks, taking leave after A school. So how many days can you take? It depends on how many vacation days you have stacked up. So each month you get 2.5. So let's say your A school is 6 months. Now you have 15 days of vacation that you can take after A school. So if your A school is 2 months, so you get 2 months in boot camp, 2 months in A school, like me at Alyssa's, now you have 10 days you can take leave after A school. So it varies. All right, and when do you have to report to your duty station? Basically the day before or the day of, as long as you make it within time. So let's say Monday is when you have to for example, for me, let's say I have to go to Pennsylvania to report to my duty station on the 22nd, on Monday of February. So right now, today is the 20th. So I would leave tomorrow to make it on time on tomorrow. And so I just have I just sleep there overnight, and then I wake up and I report in, right? So that's what you would do then. And next question Dion also asks is, living off base, so are there people that help you with buying homes and kind of stuff? So there are people that help you purchase a home, living off base, and a lot of kind of stuff. You can apply for BAH and basic allowance for housing, but you would need to be within the command for a good amount of time, or you have to be a certain rank. I've heard most commands have to be E5s, okay? And when can you use your tuition assistance? So with the tuition assistance, most commands I've heard of, you have to wait at least 1 year. So once you arrive, so after you finish boot camp and A school, you have to wait 1 year because they want you to focus on your rate first and get different, certifications and pins and all that kind of stuff. And afterwards, you can use your tuition assistance. But there are select few commands that I know that you just need to wait maybe 6 months. Within those 6 months, make sure you get certain pins, make sure you get certain certifications, and then make sure you look good on paper, and then apply for tuition assistance. So that's what you can do. And today I don't know exactly why, but I'm not feeling all too well. So you kind of will notice me, my train of thought isn't completely there. All right, so next question comes from Kev Runs on Duncan, and Kev Runs on Duncan asks, helping with purchasing a home. Are there people that help you with purchasing a home? Yes, there are people that are dedicated within the military to help you purchase homes. But at the same time, when you are in the military, when you're doing your full 20, you're going to you have a BAH, basic allowance for housing. So when you move from base to base, you have BAH where you can just rent the home temporarily, live with your family, And then once you move to another command, you do the same thing over and over and over again. So you just kind of move after a certain number of years over and over to many different places. All right, so next question comes from Future Sailor Joseph, and Future Sailor Joseph asks about my height and height limit. So my height, I'm 6 foot, and as far as I know, there's no height limit to the Navy. All right, and the last question comes from Scott S. And what kind of injuries do people get in boot camp, and how do you avoid it? The biggest injury that I notice people get in boot camp is shin splints. Basically, if you have never ran before a long distance or a long time, you get shin splints, or because it's a little bit difficult to explain, but if you had shin splints before, you will understand it. If you don't have shin splints, or if you never really ran a long distance a long time, you will get shin splints because in boot camp you do a good amount of running, and a lot of people who have never really ran a long distance, a mile and a half, start running a mile and a half when they are in boot camp instead of doing it before they join boot camp, and so they do kind of get injuries like that. But it's common. It's not a big deal when you so much that they send you back home. They're just going to give you like either extra foot support or like a cold hot patch or whatever to help you recover faster. But to avoid them as best as you can, I would say run 5 miles a day. I mean, once you do that in an hour, you are going to get used to the shin splints, and when you are in boot camp, you're not going to worry about it. All right, so make sure you get good shoes when you are first training for that. All right, so that would conclude today's Q&A session. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great Navy day.